Please note that we have now started recording. I'm going to go and introduce all team members for the executive PTA, starting with the executive PTA board. There's myself, co-chair PTA president, Ms. Leah Scott. Mr. Jones.
Good evening. My name is George Jones. I'm the co-chair president as well. My son is in 11th grade. And welcome.
We have Miss Tiffany, who unfortunately at the moment is not on. She is our VP. We have Miss Heather Hawley. Can you please speak for a moment?
Yep. Hi, I'm Heather Hawley, the recording secretary, and my daughter is a sophomore.
Thank you. Our corresponding secretary, Ms. Nica, is not on at the moment, but we do have our treasurer, Mr. Sandor.
Hi, I'm Chris Sandor. I'm the co-treasurer of the PTA. My son Nicholas is in the 11th grade and in the law program.
Ms. Samantha Philbert is also co-chair treasurer. She's not on at the moment. She's also on the SLT team. I have on the SLT team Mr. George Jones, Ms. Lakeia Jones, and Ms. Marie Helene Atwood. For the Title I team, we actually had newly appointed people as of last week. Congratulations. Yeah, last week. Congratulations. They were elected in. We have Ms. Felicia, who's the primary chairperson for Title I, and Ms. Judith. Oh my gosh, Ms. Judith, I am so sorry. I can't pronounce your last name. Who is the alternate chair. Both of them will, if they're on, they will both speak very briefly towards the end of these slides. So thank you very much. Next slide. All right, can you briefly read the key points of our minutes from last month? Go ahead.
Yep. Let's see, we opened the meeting, we did introductions. The principal spoke, he updated us on the shooting incident in the beginning of September. Let's see, then we talked about how the school opening went well. There was an update about how to get, sorry, my cat is knocking things off my counter, so that's cool. We did an update on technology, how to get laptops if your student needed one. We talked about how it's important to urge students to try to be more involved by joining a club or maybe a sports team. And we went over that students at the school have a Lincoln somebody, and they should always feel that they can talk to that person, or parents should feel free to talk to the parent coordinator, Ms. Jebril, or your student's guidance counselor if you're having any questions or problems. Let's see, then we heard from Mr. Angel Cruz, the director of the NYU Langone Health Center in the school. He went over how to sign up. Students can go down and pick up an enrollment form, or if you go to the minutes on the webpage, there's a link where you can sign up. Let's see, there's no copay or out-of-pocket cost, and it's open for all students regardless of insurance or citizenship. And then we heard from Mr. Capizzo from the Teachers Corner. He talked about the 3 marking periods that make up each semester. He mentioned that we won't be using People Path this year, and the DOE is creating a new grades platform that should be rolled out, they thought, in November. So if you have questions about your child's individual grade, you'll need to talk to the teachers directly. Let's see, there's information about buying gym uniforms on Fridays in the school store. The cost is $50. There was an update that so far COVID vaccines are still required for high contact sports. Any sports physical form should be given directly to the coach. We discussed that there was no official dress code at the high school. And let's see, there are not permanent lockers, so students will need to bring their gym uniforms every day. Let's see, senior calendar is posted on the ALHS website in the senior section. You can contact Mr. Molina with any questions about that. We had the president's report, which talked about the school Instagram account that posts a lot of helpful information. Then we had the treasurer's report, which reviewed last year's annual PTA report, and then talked about last month's balance. We had a secretary's report. There wasn't much to discuss, just if you have questions to direct them to the PTA email address. We had a committee report. The fundraising committee was getting ready to amp up and will hopefully start reporting to the PTA. If you're interested in volunteering for this committee, let us know at the general email account. Then we talked about the how you can find on the PTA parent or the ALHS parent resource page. You can find a lot of guidance counselor contacts, who to talk to. All those links are on that page. We discussed the DOE calendar. There's also the school calendars posted on the school website for your information. Conferences will be held on 17th. They'll most likely be virtual. Let's see. Then we discussed new business. We went over how Title I was going to have their elections, which they did. And then we answered some questions. You can find those in the minutes posted on the website for more information. And the meeting adjourned at 7:51. I think that's about it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. Does anyone have any issues or concerns with the minutes being approved for last month? All right, nothing heard. We'll accept the minutes. Thank you. All right, moving on. Just so you know, because I know we went through that very quickly, the slides are always posted on our Abraham Lincoln High School PTA portal. If you have various languages and you need to be able to, I'm sorry, I'm so unfocused right now, I apologize. You want to be able to use the school's website with the select language, you can by going to the left-hand corner of the website for Abraham Lincoln High School. Click on select language, and there are various languages that will assist you with changing over the portal to the specific language that you would like. Next slide. And one of my favorite 4 slides, we have Mr. Hoogenboom, who will be coming on any second. I do see him. Mr. Hoogenboom, will you be able to turn your camera on so everyone can see you? Or do we
I'm
lose
sorry,
him?
I thought my camera was on. Is my camera on?
Yes, good evening, welcome.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. I'm just using my phone, so I probably look a little elongated.
And
But
I just want you to know, because I'm not sure if you see Miss Joanne Brown, who was the previous PTA president, she's actually on this evening as well.
oh, really? Oh,
Yes,
I hope
she
your daughter,
is.
I
She
hope your
came
daughter's
on as
doing well,
a,
Mrs.
as a-
Brown.
to be part of the parent panel for the college.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay. And I'm hoping for the other Crystal Brown to come on, but she's not on at the moment.
Oh, I
All
think
right,
she
the
is on.
floor is yours.
Okay, first of all, welcome everyone. I'm very glad that you took the time to sign on. For all those Met fans out there, sorry, it was too good to last. And for all those Yankee fans out there, it's still hopeful. To move on to Abraham Lincoln High School, the superintendent recently said that he met with the group of PTA presidents, and the biggest concern was mental health for the parents. And he also met with a group of students. The students' biggest concern were opportunities for post-secondary readiness. So I thought I'd say just a word about both of those at Lincoln. Mental health, and I'm not sure if Mr. Robinson is on yet, but anything about mental health, Mr. Robinson deserves a round of applause and a pat on the back. He and his staff have done an incredible job caring about students' mental health. We have a number of social workers at Lincoln because everyone, students and staff, need practice in how do you deal with disappointment, how do you deal with being upset. And many of our social workers do mediation, not only between students who have disagreements, but also between students and teachers who have disagreements. Now, back in the day, if you were a student and you had a disagreement with the teacher, you just took your lumps, you took your punishment, and you were probably resentful. And one of the things that we really want to do with mediations is when we do have a disagreement, and if somebody did act inappropriately and have to take their lumps, we don't want them to be resentful. We want them to understand why what happened, and how they can move forward without resentment. I think it's incredibly important. And we're out of practice because of the pandemic. We're out of practice with just simple social interaction. So that's one thing that we do that's great with mental health, is that we understand that most disagreements, most problems are because of something that's upsetting us. And if we figure out what's upsetting us, we're really well along the track of not having that problem again. I also want to talk about the mental health survey that we are doing with our students. Last year, the Department of Education mandated what was called the DESA survey. Now, the problem with that is that teachers were supposed to fill it out about students. And some of the questions, particularly in October, how well does the student cooperate with family members at home? Teachers might very well not have an idea about that. It's crazy asking a teacher how that is with the student. We have a mental health survey that Mr. Robinson found somewhere, that's 35 questions that the students answer. And it is very, very simple to assess this survey, because you simply add up the number of often responses, which get 2 points. Sometimes responses get 1 point, and very rarely or never responses get 0 points. And by just adding up those numbers, we have a very good idea of who is at risk, and we meet with any student who is at risk. And this is going on right now in the social studies classes. I think it's a wonderful example of how we take mental health seriously. And then one of my little mantras lately is, we do well when we feel good. And that, as all of us know, when we feel good about our relationship with someone, we're willing to do the tiny tasks that are unpleasant. That might be, if you're a student, doing your homework for a class. If you're living with a partner, that might mean cleaning out that little trap in the sink that has all that gook, and doing it willingly because we feel good about the people that we're with. So we think mental health is incredibly important. I wanted to also talk about this new grading system, or grading record system, Gamma, that has replaced Pupil Path and Scheduler. The Department of Education is very, very frustrating. What happened was, there's a data breach, and every other company, when there's a data breach, you send people a letter saying, I'm really, really sorry there's a data breach, and you can have 12 months or 24 months of LifeLock, or whatever it's called. So if somebody actually did steal your social security number and your identity, you can find out. Only the Department of Education just throws out the entire system, throws out the baby with the bathwater, and then in their arrogance say, don't worry, we're going to develop a system that's just as good. Obviously they haven't. And if you want to follow your child's work at Abraham Lincoln High School, good luck, because you're not going to be able to. And we are working as quickly as possible to change that. Our teachers, every time we do professional development, our teachers meet to talk about how they can make Gamma work a little bit better. We have contracted with Power Schools, which has a system that is a little bit similar to Scheduler. Unfortunately, It's taken a long time to get power schools running. We think we should have it running by December, but there's a huge learning curve, and I am just very, very sorry. And I'm just blaming the Central, because unfortunately it is because of Central, but we are the ones who have to be incredibly upset. Student opportunities for post-secondary readiness. We have so many classes, the Syracuse University classes, College Now, AP classes. We have volunteer opportunities for students. So, and we also have college coordinators. I hope your child has been talking, if they're in the 9th or the 10th grade, about talking about how college coordinators are coming into their class to make sure they sign on to Naviance, to make sure that they understand what colleges are looking for. And what colleges are looking for is exactly what makes high school a worthwhile experience. Colleges like students who have been involved in a team or a club. Colleges like students who do well in school, but at the same time are well-rounded. They don't want a student who just does the homework and does well. Those students are a dime a dozen. They want students who have some kind of a characteristic that makes them exciting to be around, exciting to talk to. And of course, that is exactly the kind of student that we want at Lincoln. The superintendent was also talking with me, and I don't know where he got this idea, but he is very worried about how athletes feel when they are embarrassed by perhaps not performing very well in an athletic event. And he asked me what we do at Lincoln when our athletes have an embarrassing situation. I said we kick them off the team. And he looked at me as if I was, the worst principal in the world. And I had to say, oh, no, I'm joking. I'm telling a joke. I'm sorry, superintendent. Obviously, we don't kick them off the team. But I don't see the problem. I think our athletes, it's like being in a club. They have a community, and they're engaged in an activity where failure comes with the activity. A few weeks ago, our football team lost to Erasmus. They beat the living daylights out of us, 40-6. And what did they do? They're resilient. They understood, I got beat, and you come back. I want all of our students to discover that failure is not the end of the world unless you treat it as if it is the end of the world. And so I think we teach our athletes the right thing. I think all of our students can learn that a little bit better, that failure is okay. What do you do about it? And even quitting is okay. If there's an activity that you're very, very poor at, maybe you should find an activity that you're a little bit better at. Obviously, you still have to do your content area stuff, but a club or a sport, there's nothing wrong with finding the right thing for you. So the major point that I'm going to make when the superintendent comes and visits us is that we take care of our athletes really well. We make sure they excel academically. We have a guidance counselor who makes sure that all the NCAA requirements are met. And our goal is to make sure that every student gets the same treatment that an athlete gets. Athletes are lucky, they're members of teams, they feel like they're in a community. I want every student to join some kind of a club or a team because it gives you some community. We have Lincoln Crew that we do with Outward Bound to give our zone students a sense of community. And incidentally, Outward Bound is bringing other schools to see us on the 26th of October because they think we do such a great job. So the sense of community is what we do well with our athletic program. It's what we do well with our clubs. It's what we try to do with every student because every student deserves that attention. And every student deserves to know that not doing well, that's part of learning. It's what you do then, what strategies do you take so you can do better the next time. I'm looking at my notes. I think I've pretty much said everything. That 9th and 10th graders, your child is doing some map growth. It's an assessment in both English and mathematics, and it's really to see our progress. So the joke is we want your children to do very, very poorly this time, so that it looks as if they do well when they take it in the spring. Once again, that's something I would not tell the superintendent, and it is a joke. But one problem with map growth is that we have to use devices in order to do it. And so there are about 500 devices we've been unable to distribute to students because we're hanging on to them in order to do the map growth assessment. So I can't wait for that to be done, because there are about 500 students at the school without a device. On a positive, but also negative thing, there have been no shootings outside the school, unlike that very, very scary incident in September. The good news is that the person who did the shooting is still incarcerated, and that is partially because this was not the first time that that person had shot a firearm. We continue to work with NYPD to make sure that there is a police presence at dismissal, to make sure that our students are safe, not only in the building, but also outside of the building. I think I'm done.
Well, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hoogenboom?
Yes,
Go ahead, please. Introduce yourself and your child's grades.
okay, my name is Lorraine Chin, and my son Jordan, he's in the 10th grade, and he's also a part of the IEP program. And my concern is that we're trying to wean Jordan off from the IEP, and he signed up for 4 extracurricular activities. And I'm glad you mentioned what you said, Mr. Hoogen, about being a community, because he wants to be a part of the entire academic setting as well as the social setting. And this semester, I feel that he haven't gotten the opportunity to do that because he was not allowed to participate because he cannot stay in the school during the hour that there's a gap. He leaves school at 2:30 because the school bus, you have to leave by school bus, but his program doesn't start until 3:30. But we already have someone who could pick him up. We just want him to stay in the school and not to be outside of the school. And your school does not allow for someone like Jordan to be able to sit inside of the school. And I'm really concerned about that, because I think all the IEP students should have the opportunity to participate and be weaned off that program.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Chen. First of all, let me look into that situation. Second of all, I do want to distinguish between an IEP, an individual educational plan, and the club activities. Well, Jordan might very well need the IEP for his academic activities. I very much want him to participate in any club that he wants to. So I will look into the situation. I will meet with, I'd like to meet with Jordan, if he could come to my office, or otherwise I'll track him down. So tell him to pop into my office, and we'll try to arrange a way that he can certainly stay in the building for the hour, right? He can hang out in an office or something for the hour, so that he can participate in any club that he wants to. So I will. That's on my list, and please tell Jordan to pop in and see me, room 135. Okay.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any additional questions or concerns? All right, nothing heard. Mr. Hoogenboom, thank you so much. I know that you have several people on your team that will be staying on, so if there are any additional questions or concerns, if they're not able to respond, we'll definitely filter those questions to you.
Okay, thank you so much. And please, everyone, you see my email there. You know, AHOOGEN at schools. Don't hesitate to email me with a concern. And if I don't get back to you, we'll make sure that the person who is most closely related to whatever your concern is does get back to you. You know, things can be confusing for a parent, things can be confusing for a student, and we want to make sure that any of your concerns is dealt with appropriately. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the next slide, we have Miss Kelly, who's part of the college preparedness office, and she will be providing some imperative details.
Hi,
Ms.
everybody. Thank you so much. Is there a way for me to share my screen so I can share some slides?
Sorry about that. I do have you as co-host.
Okay, so
So you should now be able to present your slides, please.
oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, it's been a while. Hold on. Okay. Okay, so hi, my name is Meredith Kelly. I am one of the college advisors. I do have an assistant college advisor who's Miss Corinne Pope. She's also an English teacher. And I'm happy to share that we do have additional staff now. So we have a second room, which is room 231, where our 9th, 10th, and 11th grade college coordinators will be when they're not teaching. They are actually going into the classrooms, the English classrooms next week to start working with 9th and 10th graders and having them start really thinking about their futures. Each grade level works on something different. So the 9th graders, you know, they're just getting acclimated to Lincoln. It's really a little bit difficult for them to see themselves not, you know, like graduating because they just got to the school. So we're really just trying to encourage them to think about their strengths and learn how to do some goal setting, encourage them to join, you know, the clubs and teams and take advantage of all the opportunities at Lincoln. And then in the 10th grade, we really then start looking at what their interests are and careers, right? So it takes them a little bit of time to figure out what they really want to do. And they may have a kind of a vague idea. So we do a little activities with them so that they can kind of research different careers, learn about different salaries, different types of programs of study that could lead to a specific career. And then we revisit those in 11th grade. So that's where myself and Ms. Pope really work more closely with the students. 11th grade, we do a lot of work in the spring semester. They write their college essays in their English classes. We go back and review their career choices and help them kind of look at colleges that would potentially have a major that could potentially lead to a career that they're interested in. We also offer SAT prep to the juniors because they take the SAT in the spring, the whole junior class. The 10th graders will take a practice SAT. Depending on the year, we used to also have the freshmen. Last year, I think only some target groups because of the pandemic. We didn't have the whole class because we needed to spread out the other students taking the test. I haven't gotten an update whether the freshmen will take it this year or not. But again, we offer a lot to support the students and our programs are growing all the time. In terms of what parents are concerned about, right? The two main concerns are usually, can my child get into college? And can we afford for my child to attend college? And so I usually address the senior issues now because they are kind of immersed in the application process. So if there are any senior parents on right now, just know that in September, we went in, all the English classes went to the computer lab and they linked their Common App to their Naviance accounts so that as they're working on Common App, My office is able to see what colleges they're applying to so that we can start sending off their transcripts and recommendation letters. Just this past week, we went back and everyone started a CUNY application because we always want students to have an affordable option where they can stay at home and commute to college and not have to pay room and board. CUNY is always going to be one of the more affordable options for all of our students. So we want that in their back pocket as well. Next month, we will be starting FAFSA. We're also planning a FAFSA dinner, and I'll have a link for that. My last slide has the registration for that. And then we do meet with everybody again in December because that's right where, it's crunch time and deadlines are usually, well, there's multiple deadlines, but the big one is January 1st. So we want to make sure that anybody that has any loose ends, we can tie them up in December. So in terms of can your child get into college, the answer, of course, is yes. Where that is going to be, of course, will depend. And do it from here. Okay, everyone can go to college, but which one will depend on many factors. Okay, and so these are things that we discuss when we also meet with the students individually or in small groups in the college office. We meet with them in the spring semester of their junior year, as well as the fall semester of their senior year. Because by then they have their GPAs, they have their SAT scores, they have an idea of what they want to do or how far they're willing to go. And we talk about which colleges would be a good match. In terms of affordability, it depends on the school. It also depends on the family income. And so I'll address some of that. Okay. So in terms of getting into college, everybody kind of understands that grades are important. We are not ranking anymore. That is something that was important-ish to some selective colleges, but many schools are not ranking anymore. And we're, kids are still getting to college. So that's just one thing that we're no longer doing. SAT scores are also kind of optional for many schools unless students are interested in going down south. Particularly Florida, most of the schools there are still requiring SAT scores, which is why we're still giving it and encouraging students to have it. Those are the three main pieces. And then everything else is going to give the college a little bit more of a holistic view of your child, right? Your teachers will write letters about their performance in class, as well as anything they know about your child from interactions outside of the classroom, right? So some of our students help teachers or are doing internships within the school. Many of the teachers run clubs or are coaches. So, they have different viewpoints, right, that they can write about. The children should be writing resumes. We start that, we typically start that in junior year after they may have had some experiences, but we're looking to push it a little bit more to the sophomores to make sure that they're aware that, this is something that colleges do want to see. They want to see that you've joined clubs, that you've joined a team, that you have work experience. We try to push summer youth employment every summer because it's a great opportunity for students to have some work experience. And then in the junior year, they write their personal statement, which is pretty much required by most colleges. And we also discuss special programs. Special programs are EOP, SEEK, and HEOP, and I'll address that in a second. Few schools require interviews, but we do always have some students who are interested in theater or music, where an audition type experience would have to happen. We also have students that are applying to selective colleges or selective programs, and those ones are the ones that typically they would want an interview. It's better to just at least put in that you were willing to have an interview. Not everybody gets one, but just the willingness and preparedness that you could, sit for an interview. And then the last part is application fees. So colleges are not going to look at your things if you don't pay the application fee or receive a fee waiver. So we also discuss with the student if they're eligible for a fee waiver or if they should be doing some budgeting for their application fees. So back to the opportunity programs. In the past, students had to pay for school lunch. And so there was a school lunch form that every family had to fill out in order for their child to be eligible for free lunch. Now that everyone gets free lunch, a lot of parents don't fill the form out, which then makes it a little bit difficult for us to know if the child's eligible for fee waivers and opportunity programs. And so the guidelines for the free and reduced lunch program are pretty much the same guidelines that colleges use to waive application fees, as well as to place a student in a special opportunity program. And so, you know, obviously we want to save money, but more importantly, some of the opportunity programs can really help expand the range of schools that the children might be able to get into. So, you know, when you're looking at a school who normally admits students with a 93 average, you know, but you have a solid B student, the colleges understand that, you know, the child could have some potential, you know, and everybody knows that people put lots of money into tutors and essay writers, and not everyone can afford that. So, and the colleges know it too. So this is kind of their way of leveling the playing field a little bit. So, you know, we need to know if the child is eligible so we can advise them as to which colleges they should be looking at, and also how to apply. These programs are really just a question on the application. And so, you know, we try to repeat these terms and make sure that they're familiar with these terms so that, you know, they're not accidentally saying, no, I don't want that opportunity program. The opportunity programs usually also include extra financial aid. Sometimes it includes perks like Metro cards and things like that, or laptops. There is a summer part of the program. So it kind of works like a bridge program, and every school treats it a little bit differently, but they want the kids on campus to get acclimated, so they know where the resources are. They meet the other students in the program, and the idea is to get them more comfortable while they're on campus so they do well. When it's time for midterms or finals, they'll offer resources and study groups, and really make sure that the students are thriving. And in addition, I've spoken to so I think it was one of the SUNY advisors had come to meet with the students, and he had been in an EOP program and said that the advisors in the EOP program really opened his eyes to other opportunities, some study abroad opportunities and work opportunities, just because he had those extra connections. So it's a great program. I always encourage everyone to do a lunch form every year, even though everyone gets free lunch. It seems silly, why am I doing this? But you know, aside from the school's funding being related to that, it's also so that we have an idea of how to advise your children. The only other way that we could determine if a child is eligible for the waivers and the opportunity programs is to actually view a copy of the tax return form, which most people don't want their kids walking around with. Or if the family has Social Security or public assistance, those letters would also be, you know, would assess eligibility as well. And so those would be other documents. So, and for whatever reason, if you didn't want to do the lunch form, but could provide, you know, just personally to me or the other college advisor, that's how we would determine. So in terms of affording college, again, with the range of colleges that we discuss with the students, we talk about the more generous colleges, which, you know, unfortunately are really difficult to get into, but we want them to have that awareness. If your grades are good, you have all those extracurricular activities, you have the work experience, then yeah, you want to try for the colleges that meet full need. However, if you, you know, if your family earns a good living, which is what we essentially want for everyone. I always recommend running the net price calculator. So parents that are seniors or even juniors, or honestly, any of you, if you have a college that you think, hey, I hope my kid can go here, run the net price calculator. You go into the college's website, in the search bar, you type in net price calculator, and it brings you to like this miniature financial aid form. Couple of questions about the family household, the income, age of the child, age of the parents, things like that. And it will give you kind of a roundabout package of like what it might look like if your child went there. I did it for my own kids and it was kind of accurate. I would say probably, within $5,000, it wasn't, completely off the mark. Wasn't exactly what I had seen, but I kind of had got an idea. If I'm seeing that the net price calculator is going to be $75,000, okay, $5,000 is not going to help with that one. So, it gave me an idea of what colleges can I, throw out of the list. And these are the ones that seem a little bit more affordable to my family. And so that's what we would encourage you to do. All financial aid comes from the financial aid office in the school, and there are different ways to get that money. And it usually starts with the FAFSA, which is the free application for student aid, and that is for federal aid. Last year, the maximum was around $6,800 for students that met full need. So for example, it would be the family whose child is fee waiver eligible would receive the max aid. And then from there, they have their formulas to figure out how much you're eligible for. With that grant, there's also an FSEOG grant. Not all schools have that, but the maximum last year was $4,000. And then every child will be eligible for about $5,500 loan. In addition, through the federal government, parents can take out a Parent Plus loan. And that will range, and usually parents can borrow up to the cost of the college. And that has to be paid back with interest. So the student loan interest rate was a little over 3%, and the parent one was a little over 6% last year. The numbers usually change around March for the following year. So we're kind of still in this year's numbers. In addition, New York State has a tuition assistance program, so that's TAP, and that money has to only be used for tuition. And those ranges, those were a little bit all over the place. Usually it's around $5,000, but I was seeing a little bit more here and there. So last year, our students that were fee waiver eligible were getting about $13,000 of free government money. And then the loans were on top of that if needed. If your child is very bright and wants to try to apply for one of those selective colleges that meet full need, they're going to have to, or you're going to have to really apply for the CSS Profile on College Board. Not every college requires that. It's not a fun application. They go really more in depth because if they're going to give your family a big amount of money, they really want to see where the need is. So this is where for divorced or separated or non-married parents, both parents' information gets put on the application. For the FAFSA and the TAP, only the custodial parent or the parent that the child is living with would go on the application. For the CSS Profile, the non-custodial parent also goes on the application. They also ask if you drive a car, what kind of car, if you have any property, like it's really intense. They go back 2 years, right? So this year's financial aid applications are based on the 2021 tax return. College boards will probably go back to 2020 as well as 2021. And then they also want you to predict and go ahead about 2 years, which I guess they think we have a crystal ball, but I guess if you, so that's just but the nice thing is, these colleges are the generous colleges typically, so they have the money. It's just a matter of making sure that the people that really need it can get it. So general advice, especially if you're a senior parent, it's really stressful, and the kids are stressed out and they're nervous. They're excited, but they kind of missed a year, so a lot of them are still feeling like juniors, not seniors. And what can you do? You can help them narrow down the list so it's manageable. Some of the colleges have additional essays on top of the personal statement that they've already worked on, so that's a little stressful. If you can visit the colleges with your kids, that would be great. I find it difficult for myself even. We do have a couple of college trips coming up. We are visiting St. Francis on Thursday, and then in December we have a trip to Adelphi. And I know that the 9th and 10th and 11th coordinators are planning some trips too. I don't have confirmation where they booked though. I would encourage your child to apply to wherever they wanted to apply. I don't believe in a dream school really, but they should be able to dream and apply to wherever they want to go. And then also apply to, match schools and safety schools. CUNY, SUNY, private, in-state, out of state, cast a wide net and see what comes back. And I wouldn't stress too much about the price tag. Run that net price calculator and have that range, and there will be something that works for you. And just be supportive. It is stressful for them, and I know it's stressful for the parents too. We have a load of resources on the school's website. So my page is under academics, and then drop down to college and career services. The kids are, we've sent them home with checklists and lists of, application websites. And when they've met with us, we've circled target schools and given them college lists. But, papers disappear and kids forget what they're supposed to do. So all of the websites are listed on the college and career services. We have links if students want to research scholarships as well. So in addition to the scholarships that your child might receive from the college, they're more than welcome to apply to any private scholarships. In my experience, the ones that students usually receive are the local ones or scholarships given by, the church that your family's affiliated with, or a union, from a job, neighborhoods. We do have a couple of school ones for students that were in District 21. So yeah, that's a little, you got to do a little research, but they're out there, and I would just encourage you and your children to look at those. If you have a senior, they should have already thought of if they want to retake the SAT. There's 2 more times to take it, November and December. They really want to register now because kids get closed out of schools because it gets to be too much. There's limited seating. So, if they can't go to one school, another school might be really far away, and then it's a problem for them to get there. They should have completed their essay, updated their resume on Naviance. They should have asked for teacher recommendations. That also has to be done on Naviance. It should be from 2 major subject area teachers. So again, if you have a child in 9th, 10th, 11th grade, make sure that they're, making connections with their English, their math, their science, their history teachers, so that they can go back and ask them for recommendation letters. Again, we linked our Common App and Naviance. We started the CUNY application. Next month is financial aid, and then it's done, right? So then we move on to the juniors and getting them set up. So the FAFSA dinner is scheduled for November 29th. That's the form, and you can take a little screenshot of the QR code. We will be sending this invitation to this, to the families also through the students. I'll also have it on the team, and I usually put it on the website. although I might need help with that. But we'll get it out there. Registration is required because we do order food, and we need to also make sure that everybody is vaccinated. That's required for entering the building. The students don't need it, but the parents need it. Any visitors need to have the vaccination card with them. I think that might be it. I think I covered a lot. So I will stop sharing and answer questions if you have any.
I do see one question in the chat. Do you know what period the college team will be going around? I'm not sure what grade that they were referring to.
So the college.
Sorry, it's ninth grade for the ninth graders.
So the ninth graders, so the 9th and 10th graders will be logging onto Naviance next week. They're doing it with their English teachers, and which I believe I think it's Monday. I'm not 100% sure if the teachers will give them a second day. I think the activity only takes the one day. And the college coordinators will be stopping by. I'm also going to be stopping by some of the classrooms as well, just to make sure that goes smoothly. But yeah, it's Monday during English class, so that's going to vary from student to student.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Please, if there's any other questions, I know I have tons of them, but I wrote down tons of notes, so go ahead.
I have another one, because it's like, you feel I have a ninth grader, but I know I'm going to blink and she's going to be in 12th. And I'm at this point, it's like, it's been years since I went to college, even though sometimes I could talk about the days and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that was years ago, literally. So I don't know. I know some of the CUNY and SUNY schools that's out there now, but I don't know, like, what's a good school, or I mean, like you said, there's no good school because it really depends on the student and what they take from it. Same as high schools and any school that you go to, unless they're trying to go to these big Ivy League schools where they're like a team, but I don't see my kid doing that. But like, is there like a way to get like a list from you guys or something, like as far as what schools are out there? Like I mean, I know I could just go to SUNY.com, but like, are there any other private schools or something that I could probably think about taking a trip or something for her?
Yeah, so we really try to push Naviance as a tool for research because they can save schools that they're interested in over the years. And although the feature, again, our curriculum has kind of been set for a few years because we really didn't have too many opportunities to happen to the classes, but we're kind of pushing things down to the lower grades so that they do the same thing over and over again a little bit. But all of the resources are on Naviance. So if you and your child go onto Naviance, there's a college section, and there are a couple of different ways to research colleges. I like what's called a college super match. It's the super match college search. If the child knows their GPA, they can put that in. Once the child has an SAT score, they can put that in. They can put in what major, they can put in which specific states they're willing to go to. And every time you put in another feature, the list changes. There's a similar one on College Board. There's a site called Big Future. It's part of College Board, and they have similar searches. So you can kind of find colleges that way. We provide New York charts that have a breakdown of the GPA requirements, SAT requirements, and then the requirements through the opportunity programs. And so I don't know, I had it on the team, but I only have it on the senior team. I think I posted it on the website, but I have to double check. But it's basically the profile. So if you Google CUNY profile, SUNY profile, instead of going through the website and looking through all of the colleges, it's kind of one pager with all the SUNY schools or all the CUNY schools. I have one for New York HEOP programs And I do have a magazine that have all the private New York schools, but it's really a lot. You'd have to go back in time and get those giant books of the colleges from when, when we had these books and look and read the little tiny print.
Yeah.
Which those still exist too, but yeah, they're Big Future, Naviance. There are a bunch of websites that you can kind of do college searching through. I would say also research if your child knows what they want to study. That's a big help because, for example, nursing. Some schools are direct admit, where you're accepted into the school and you're accepted into the nursing program. Other schools, they have nursing, you're accepted to the school, but while you're in the school, you still have to try to get into the nursing program. So what happens if you don't, right? So
Right.
sometimes it's really important to know, like, you know, what the path is going to be in terms of researching colleges. But if you just want, you know, general college information, I would do those searches and see what comes up.
That makes sense because she's talking a little bit about it now. So it's of course I knew it was going to change. She went from being a doctor when she was little, to a baker, to therapy now. And I'm like, which therapy? And then she shut down. Like, okay, there's tons of them, but okay. But that makes sense. That gives me something to kind of like, she's planted the seed. I'm going to just keep sprinkling a little bit of water on it because at this point it's up to them. That's how I do it here, like at my house, like let them want it. Okay, but that's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
There's another question in the chat.
Oh, yes.
Is it
financial aid? Is it necessary to
please.
fill the New York State financial aid if your child's planning to go out of state? No, it is not necessary. However, I always encourage students to do it anyway because things happen in life. And, you know, at least, you know, I've had students go away to college and have to come back home for whatever reason, health reasons, family reasons. So if you have things set up already, it's a lot smoother of a transition. You know, God forbid they have to do, you know, come home and transfer. But otherwise, no, it's not necessary.
Hi.
Oh, go ahead.
So my name is Lorraine. I just spoke about my son, Jordan, and he's actually a part of the IEP. And we've been talking about college for the past couple of years because father graduated from Cornell. I graduated from Binghamton. So we have taken him up to the colleges, but he really didn't care for it, either one. So he said he wants to go to Brooklyn College because it's close to home. Now, we really don't know how to actually navigate the system where its IEP is concerned. I know they have the HEOP program, and but honestly, for someone, he's structured in such a way, he's very focused. So if he said he wants to go to Brooklyn College, it's like he's already programmed. That's where he's going.
Gotcha.
So,
So colleges they don't really ask for IEP information in their application process. However, many colleges have what's called the Office of Accessibility. And so if when your child is attending college, they do have an IEP that's documented, they can bring that to the school and work, and the school will kind of tell you what services they can provide, or, you know, and sometimes that will depend on, you know, what's in the IEP and which professor they have, sometimes what's allowed. But yeah, it's the Office of Accessibility is what you'd want to look for at each school.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so now I'm gonna hold off the questions if there are any more and bring in our amazing parent panel. I have two parents, Miss Crystal Brown, who just had her child graduate just this past June, and then Miss Judith Brown, who was our previous PTA president, who I believe your daughter graduated in 20.
You
I
are
know,
correct.
I was correct.
Yes, you are.
Excellent. So I brought them on so that they can go and explain the processes that they went through and what they felt was they should have paid maybe more attention to what Miss Kelly was saying, or where they came across some situations that they wish they had gotten more details on. If Miss Kelly can also stay on to perhaps help with that in case there is any contradictions or not understanding for families, I'd appreciate that. But
Absolutely.
Miss
I'm gonna take
Brown,
notes.
but it will be both the Miss Browns that will be basically leading this. I will let them speak, discuss things, have it go free ground for about 15, 20 minutes, and then I'll bring it to a hard stop so that we can go and push through for our meeting. All right, go right ahead. Ladies, thank you so much.
Hi, good evening. This is Crystal Brown. My son just graduated in June. Can you hear me?
Loud and
Yes,
clear.
ma'am. Yep.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. I'm actually still working, but I'm driving. But I told Miss Scott I'm coming, so this is what it is. So please accept me this way. So I just want to say, one, welcome to all the parents. This is a great, great school. My son got a great experience out of this school. We came to Lincoln when he was in the 10th grade, so we were a transfer student. And in that process of being a transfer student, we weren't coming from a regular public school, we were coming from charter. And I'm choosing to mention this because we ran into a stump at one point, something that we were not aware of. And I just want to let other parents know, if you were a transfer into the school from the 9th to 10th or however it goes, just pay attention, one thing, to the child's credits. So like, I believe in, if I hope I still got this right. So in regular public, like Lincoln, they have first and second, what is it, semesters? I'm like all in college mode now. So what is it, terms or whatever it's called? But in charter, they have it split into 3. So the reason why I say that is for, far as credits, it would be like 1.5. If it's supposed to be 4 credits for that one class, for say if it's math, like if it's algebra, my son had it split in half. So it was like 1.5 credit, it was split into 3. So reason why I'm saying it this way is that when we came to Lincoln, he only had algebra 1. So when we came in as a transfer, they did not put my son in algebra 2. Unbeknownst to me, it didn't phase me or anything like that. I wasn't, didn't catch on to that. He had other AP classes, which is great. But when we applied to a certain college, when they reviewed his transcript, and this was his school that he wanted to go to at the moment of the time, they told us that the school basically said he did not qualify. I'm going to speak on this specifically because he missed algebra 2. So if any parents, if your students, they're looking at a specific school and they're like, I really want to go here for whatever reason, maybe, make sure you check his or her transcript and match it with the school's requirements and classes to ensure that your child has what they need beforehand. Like, don't wait like we did until like the 12th grade or so to figure this out, because at that point, there was no way he could get that class. And then there was opportunity throughout his years where he had like certain classes that he didn't need, where we could have finagled, but again, we didn't know. But that was one thing that I wanted to point out. So I'll give the other Miss Brown a little bit of time, I guess, to speak, so I won't hog it all, especially since I'm driving.
No problem, Ms. Brown. So I just want to say, yes, my daughter did graduate in 2020, and then we had the pandemic. So the one thing that I will say is, don't wait to the last minute to start looking at colleges. So for me and my daughter, prior to the pandemic, when they had winter recess, like when they had regions in January, the schools that she was interested, we had already toured those schools. So when the pandemic came, we wasn't as affected by some students that may have been affected because they didn't tour the school. So now you having these virtual orientations. So that's one thing I would say. Don't put off what you could do today. So during your Christmas break, if these colleges are open and you can tour the college, or if they have a Saturday college tour, take advantage of those tours because we never know what will happen with the world. The second thing, Ms. Chin, so I had a lot of opportunities at PTA president, and I was able to attend a workshop at Kingsborough Community College, and they talk a lot about office services for children that have IEPs. I know your son said he's interested in going to Brooklyn College, but I would say go over to Kingsborough. They are very good with that, and they will help you through that process. In addition, my daughter was able to take classes with Syracuse, Kingsborough, and Brooklyn College. So you need to make sure when they're taking these classes, these college courses, that the colleges that they're going to go to will accept their credits. So I had to fight constantly because she had 24 credits. She actually attends Pace University. She's a junior. They took all 24 of her credits. So you don't want your children taking these classes and then their grades are not going over with them because those are college classes you won't have to pay for. So I'll give it back to Ms. Crystal Brown. So I won't take up all the time. Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you. So, and another thing that just by listening to Ms. Brown as well, she's correct. Don't wait to the last minute. So I'm after, we're post-pandemic, so well, sort of kind of, right? So we went to visit schools and it was great. Some schools, they actually have on their website, hence you can't make it because it's too far or whatever reason. Sometimes they have a virtual tour online on their website. I mean, make the best of it if you want to view it and see to make the decisions with your child. Do a lot of things with the child. I know the school says they're going to different schools, so they, visits, which is awesome because I don't think my high school did it at all when I was in school, to be honest. But I think it's great. And, and if you have any questions, the schools now are always open and majority of them are willing to answer any questions that you may have. So to bring it back to my son, we actually did, he couldn't go to that school. The school was Albany, University of Albany. He could not go there as he wanted to, but he's so, he's great. We went to visit Utica University. I'll point out this school, which is private. I fell in love with the school, and what made me fall in love with the school, and this is how I chose to, we chose to support it, I supported my son in choosing the college, was the warmth, the family atmosphere, the dedication they showed. And to add, my son played football at Lincoln University. So we were, the sports is very big at the school, very supportive. So like when they're saying to have your child join clubs at the school, being involved is so important. So my son he attends right now Utica University, which is about 4-5 hours away driving. It's not bad. So sometimes if you pick a school and that's your go-to school and that's a great school, make sure that when your child has to come home, depending on how far it is, make sure there's like close enough transportation for them to get to, like be it Amtrak, the bus, whatever, stable bus system, Greyhound, if that's it. Certain stuff, even if it's an airport, make sure it's something close that is convenient enough for them to get to and learn how to travel basically on their own without us driving them or them taking a cab or whatever the case may be, because it's very helpful. And far as like recommendation letters and so forth, children that families that go to, churches or even positive role models during their life going back, those are good role models, especially if they don't feel comfortable asking someone in the school. Some kids just are not that comfortable. So maybe they'll, maybe it's a more support system where, there's a professional working with them. And even there was one student that I learned had a recommendation letter from his pediatrician, not on the sense of health wise, but the fact of how well the child, presented himself. He really needed he chose his pediatrician. He had a good relationship with him. And the point I'm making is, why not? And also scholarships, looking to those any which way. And Miss Kelly is a great resource for that. And a lot of the schools offer great scholarships. And what we did with that is you can do scholarship, if I have it right, Miss Kelly, I don't know if it's called like matching. If one college has, this is how much your child can get, that you can compare it to another college, and say, for instance, your child picks that specific school to go to, and they could, if they want to kind of like say like, hey, this college over here is, college B is offering me this amount of money. Sometimes they compare and contrast, and we had that we had that situation where it worked out to our benefit to a certain amount. So just something to consider as well. Ms. Brown?
So yes, I do agree with the scholarships and what Ms. Brown was saying. So once you know what school your child is going to, you definitely should follow up to see what type of first-time freshman scholarships they could get. So you should be on the school website of the college, and you should see what the deadline is, because a lot of times we miss the deadlines because we haven't been on the school website timely. So the children should have to have some accountability. So they should be researching their colleges, knowing what the SAT scores is, what's the ACT scores, and what scholarships they could apply to. I mean, we come from all different backgrounds, so they have all different type of scholarships for different backgrounds, for all different type of people from Africa, people from Mexico, people from African-American descent. So look into those, because a lot of that money just goes back to the school because we don't take advantage of the things, and we should talk among ourselves and find out what's out there. I might not be able to use it, but I might be able to give it to Miss Crystal Brown, and her son might be able to benefit. So if you know of something, share that information, then just hold it to yourself.
So Ms. Scott, where are we at with time? You want us to keep going or just checking in?
Let's see if anybody has some questions. There's some great details that you guys provided. I would have never even thought about the first-time freshman scholarship or the college matching scholarships. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing that information about what happened with your child. So does anybody have any questions, some woes, concerns? Wow, between Miss Kelly and both Miss Browns, I think you overwhelmed us with information.
Glad to do so.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Not a problem. Do either one of you have any other imperative details?
I'll share one last thing, if I may. So,
Please.
when my son was prepared to start Utica, he was sick. He had like an upper respiratory infection, so we couldn't start on. I say we because we're a team. We were together on this, so we couldn't start on time. So he started late in a sense because I could not send him to school if he wasn't medically cleared here. What happened was when he did start, trust me, it's overwhelming because he's trying to pick up, do this, do that. It's just like being a parent. We're like an octopus. We're a doctor, we're a nurse, we're a therapist. So he was trying to get everything in order, each class, and learn how to log in for this and be on this. And it was, overwhelming, as well as play football and learn the plays and so forth. So I say this to say communication. Don't get nervous with the child, encourage your child. When you learn out who your professors are, if something happens where you don't start on time like we did, email them, let them know. Hey, hi, I'm Crystal Brown. I'm sorry, I'm a late start, and the professors at this school, I love that they were genuinely, understanding, wasn't over pressuring him, and he was able to catch up. So my point is, teach your child from the beginning. They like to text their friends, they need to learn how to email their professors to keep the communication lines open. And, this is where they learn, become formal. And it's not like, hey, what's up? It's how, good afternoon, Professor such and such. And this is where it starts. And trust me, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. And for sports players, they have to take what is that called? A sickle cell test. immunization, I guess, whatever it's called. So normally they mention that if the child is supposed to have it at birth. For some apparent reason, I would have thought my son would have had this sickle cell shot or whatever at birth. I presented his records, and for some apparent reason, he had to get the sickle cell shot. So just to let you know, if the child plays any type of sports, what are the requirements for that too, for them to begin playing? Because they will not play if they're missing anything, and I agree with that. So just something to also check in on. Make sure you check in on the requirements for the academics and the requirements for the sports.
So I do just want to add to what Ms. Brown said. So my daughter Javina, last semester, she got COVID right before finals. And I said, you have to call your professors and you have to let them know you have COVID. She got it from my husband. She came home for the weekend to study. And Ms. Brown is correct. She communicated with her professors. She let them know what was going on. So she took her finals in June, which she was fine. And then we cleared out her, because she stays actually on campus, even though she goes to school here. So communication is the key. The other thing that I say is helpful, make friends with someone in class. So if you need some information, you have somebody to contact. So Ms. Brown is right. They're texting everything. Make a group chat. So if you don't know something, trust me, somebody else doesn't know something. And you guys don't say anything, so the teacher doesn't know, but if y'all talk amongst yourselves, I find it to be very helpful, because I see that this semester, my daughter is struggling with orgochemistry, but today she went to see her professor, but her professor paired her with somebody that knows less than her. And she was like, I don't know that much, but her teacher feels she knows enough to help somebody else. So communication is the key, the key, the key. And that's my tidbit for the evening.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for your information. Okay, I'm sorry, I was reading something in the chat. Thank you all so much for your information on your time. I know that we're a little bit past the promised time that I told you all, but I appreciate it. It was so great seeing both of you, Ms. Brown and Ms. Brown. Hopefully now that there's no more COVID, we can eventually link up and have some coffee. Ms. Brown, we've been talking about that for what, 4 years? So hopefully we can do that. And Ms. Kelly, thank you so much. If we could just bring up the slide one more time. Yep, hold that right there, Ms. Meredith Kelly. Her email address is there, as well as her phone number. Even though she deals with the students, I can assure you she will also help with lost souls of parents. I can't tell you how many times since 9th grade I've reached out to her. Not my 9th grade, my son's 9th grade. And I've reached out to her several times just to say, I'm lost, how do I guide him? And she'll speak with me and then link up with my son to make sure he's perfectly on track. So if there's no further questions, and it's fine, you can continue posting in the chat. We're gonna just quickly push through on our meeting and hopefully get this done in 30 minutes. Ladies, thank you so much. You're more than welcome to stay on. Otherwise, you three of you have an excellent evening. All right, moving on to the next slide. Thank you. Next slide. All right, unfortunately, I don't think we have any teachers on, but I would like to go and take the moment for either Mr. Robinson or Ms. Jebril to come on and maybe discuss some quick details about school. Perhaps that one program that Mr. Hoogenboom was discussing, that the parents will be able to start seeing our children's grades and not be wondering.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Thank you. Also introduce who you are. Some parents may not know.
Good evening.
Hi, everybody.
Oh.
Go ahead, Ms. Muhammad.
You mean Ms. Jebril? Ms. Muhammad left 2 years ago.
It's too late. These meetings.
We're going to scold you on that one.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ms. Jebril, the parent coordinator at Abraham Lincoln High School.
Welcome, Mr. Robinson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mr. Robinson. I'm the assistant principal of guidance. And I think Mr. Hoogenboom just did a great job explaining everything. I could talk a little bit more about Gamma. Gamma is up until last year, we've been using Schedula or Pupil Path. Parents got to see grades and attendance and all that. And this year, the city said we could no longer use that. And so they offered a platform for us to use. But it's the first year they're kind of rolling it out and we're kind of in for the ride. So a lot of good things have been rolling out of it. There's some attendance that can be taken online now, and you can see that right in your New York City Schools account as a parent. And oh, sorry, 1 second. I'm sorry. I saw Miss Scott's face. I was like, oh, something wrong must be happening.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm just making faces. Nothing with you.
So the benefit of Gamma is going to be that you can see that right on your New York City Schools account. So teachers are uploading assignments and putting in grades. I don't know. Are there any parents in here who have been on the New York City Schools account and can see any grade books?
I'm not able to see any grades.
I saw 2 classes and that's it.
You did.
And there weren't very many assignments. Yeah, and in the grades section, it's like a tile, but there were only 2 classes in there and just a couple grades. It wasn't very, wasn't a lot, but there were some in there.
Now, I know last year, Mr. Robinson, you and your team came up with what seemed like an amazing idea that 2 weeks prior to the grades going in, or at least a week prior, those that were having difficulty or failing would be notified. Did that occur for this marking period, or was that put on hold?
So the plan for the student concern notifications is for marking period 2 and 3. Marking period 1, especially in the beginning of the year, and a little bit starting term 2, because there is some movement in programs. Teachers are really just starting to get to know the students a little bit, and there's program changes. So marking period 1 is really truly just a report of progress. So you're going to get the report card. The report card isn't what goes on the transcripts, isn't what's going to colleges. It's just a report of progress and how the student's doing. And then those 2 weeks prior, those course concern notifications will be in effect for marking period 2 and marking period 3. And similarly for term 2, because there's so much movement in marking period 1, and we're just getting to know the students, it's going to be the same setup.
And you don't find that heartburn on the teachers? Because if there's any parents like me and I get my son's grade and get notified after the grades go in that there's a problem, I would hate to go and hear that the teachers were verbally harassed because the parents weren't notified ahead of time.
I'm not sure I understand the question, Ms. Scott. What? So you're suggesting?
You know how we're big up with communication for the parents. So
right.
my concern is that, especially since we can't see our children's grades, we don't know if they're passing or failing right now. We're just taking the word of the student. And this is
right.
more coming from, I don't want to say protecting the teacher, but they have 1,000,001 things going on right now. So I would hate to go and have or hear that the grades go in, we get their report cards next week. And like for me, my son's a senior, and I'm gonna find out next week that he failed the class. Look, that's just, for me, that would be a little concerning on the senior year. And
yeah, I think
be upset. So I'm just wondering what kind of fallout there is and what protection there is for the teachers, for parents like me that would pretty much get very upset knowing about the issue after the grade goes in.
Yeah,
I know it's just first marking period, but
yeah, I would say when you look at the timeline of first marking period, there's a reason why we didn't put the course concerns in effect. If the student's really struggling, it is the expectation of the teacher to reach out. We just didn't put that hard deadline into effect because if you look at the timeline, the first 10 days of school is a lot of programs moving because we're getting new admits. We have to equalize classes. Unfortunately, probably as parents, you've had your students who have been moved during that first 10 days. And then after that, there's only so many days till first marking period ends. So two weeks before first marking period ends, we're looking at the first week of October. So it's just what I think when we talked about it last time, I thought we were on the same page with this, but we can talk about it again. It just didn't seem.
Mr. Robinson, I'm just playing devil's advocate because of maybe some new parents that may not have heard this and may have the same concerns that I have. So don't take it that personal.
No, I'm not taking it personal. I give you credit.
As long as you're aware of the situation and why you did what you did, it makes perfect sense to me. I just want to make sure everyone else does.
Yeah, of course. I don't take it personally at all. I give you credit for kind of bringing this issue into light. It was actually through the PTA and through executive board meetings and SLT meetings and PTA meetings that we actually put the course concern notifications on the calendar. So I don't take it personally. The only thing I want to do is make sure we're on the same page too. And if we feel like that timeline doesn't work, then maybe we should consider it changing it, but we do have to be reasonable given the beginning of the year school calendar.
Perfect. Thank you for letting me play devil's advocate. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Does anyone have any other questions?
I have a quick question. How, so I know that the school really advocates for students advocating for themselves. And one of my daughter's teachers hasn't returned like any work this whole marking period, like I think maybe one assignment. And so she asked, like, how am I doing? Like, what's going on? And the teacher just kind of like, I don't know. So I'm kind of wondering how much do you recommend that the students try before a parent steps in, because I do want to foster, because like parents were saying, in college, you need to be able to talk to your professors yourself. Your parent can't do it. So, what kind of balance do you recommend there? Just, because it's hard as a student to get better if you're not getting your quiz grades back, for example, or, whatever. But yeah, my kid is kind of shy and it's going to take I don't know, as a like final, like, okay, I'll never ask again type sort of answer. So just kind of what do you recommend kind of strategies for that kind of situation?
I would say you have every right to be concerned in that situation. The teacher not giving feedback and then once asked says, I don't know, that's not what we want to have happen. So I want to know the name of the teacher. I think you're absolutely right with the whole student advocacy. It would be appropriate if she wanted to come talk to me about it, but it would also be appropriate you as parent to inform me about that.
Thank you.
Ms. Hawley, I can assure you, Mr. Robinson has amazing ideas. He has helped me with my son every time I've had an issue with certain teachers. So definitely reach out to him, email him later today, and he'll respond tomorrow.
Well, I think part of the problem might be she was transferred in, she was one of those, got her schedule switched up. So I don't know, the teacher's trying, and I guess it was a whole class, like, so, I want to give the teacher some sort of benefit of the doubt because it sounds like kind of a messy situation, but
also reach out to the guidance counselor.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess my question was really more about like, how much should a kid try before a parent steps in, so you're not kind of taking away their agency, but at the same time, getting the information you need.
Hi, I'm a parent for my daughter Danielle. She's dealt with this in middle school, and I kind of was trying to lead her to I always had this saying, well, my grandmother used to say, closed mouths don't get fed. So I try to lead with that with her. And one of the things I try to push her, because she's super shy too. I'm like, go see Mr. Robinson. I even was pushing. If you go see him, you'll see Nina. Go talk. Just say something. I don't know. Do something. I was trying, because I'm not in the school. And that's where I feel like I'm kind of like blocked off. And again, I kind of tell myself, back down, let her do it, because she has to learn eventually. But one of the things I had tried to do with her in another school when her middle school was, you email your teacher on Pupil Path, because at that time we was using Pupil Path, and I can see it. And as I see that you're trying, and then I only give it 2 tries, because then I'm like, the 3rd try, then I follow up with the email, with her email on it. So it's like, hey, she's been trying. Now I'm the parent pushing her try. So let's make this work. Because it's like, I still kind of like want her to do it. So maybe, I don't know, I'm just shooting for stars here. Maybe have her email or send a text message in Teams or something, and then you could follow up if it's not getting handled. Almost like we're the parents, but we're the supervisors, like the big supervisors or something. I don't know.
I was just thinking the
That's a good
same
idea.
thing. It reminds me of like, if you have a problem with a guidance counselor, you could email that guidance counselor, of course, but then you would CC me on an email, right? It's the, you all know that as adults because you've lived that through that and you know that. But what you're doing, it sounds like you're teaching your child how to do that. So that's really great. And Miss Hawley, you're thinking about that. So it's so wise. So
And
thank you for bringing that forward.
Agree. I do the same thing. To let him deal with it 2-3 times. Then I'll go to the guidance counselor. Then I'll go to Mr. Robinson, and I'll do my very, very best not to get Mr. Hoogenboom unless nobody's doing anything. Because once you get him involved, it'll get done, but it's not going to look pretty in between. So even though he has an open door, try to let everyone do their job first before you reach out to him. But yes, definitely. I love the 2-3 tries before mama gets involved. If mama gets involved, that's just as bad as getting the principal involved. You don't want that.
I have a comment, Miss Scott. It's Miss Brown.
Of course, go right ahead.
So I like the whole concept of that is great. So I feel like what I taught my son as far as communication, I think we had one with the guidance counselor there, and I did have to reach out to Mr. Robinson, but I showed him how it should run. Like the conversation was like, I spoke with such and such, and then, and a few times where we're not getting nowhere. And then when I went to Mr. Robinson, so I blind CC'd my son so he could see the email to see how it looks, how the conversation looks, because now it teaches him, hopefully, when he gets to college, that this is how you do your, conversation. Like, I reached out to you, professor, on such and such a day, and this is what my conversation teaches him how to build that email chain per se. So that's just something that, I did with him. I don't know what's going on now because I can't see his emails, but I'm praying it's working.
Those are all great suggestions. Thanks. So I will definitely try them.
Hi, Ms. Brown. It's good to see you. And Ms. Brown and Ms. Brown.
Yes, same here.
All right, if there's no further questions, again, Mr. Robinson, thank you for letting me be evil. I appreciate that.
Not at all, Ms. Ken.
All right, we're going to try to push through the last of our slides. I really don't have any great message to put out there except to go and say I'm going to start missing the school. My son's a senior, so he'll be out by June, if not sooner. So I have to say, going in as a high school parent, I was nervous. I was terrified because I didn't know what to expect. And it has been a phenomenal 4 years. And between the PTA and Mr. Robinson's team, I thank you. I thank you for listening to us. I thank you for hearing us out. And I hope the parents, with the ideas that we have brought forth, that you guys know that we've been trying. There's actually some parents that they've been to the school for almost 8 years because they've had their children continuously come to the school. So you have a lot of awesome people, and I don't know what I'm going to do when my son graduates. Next slide. Thank you. Hold on. treasurer's report, please.
All right, it'll be a very brief treasurer's report. Because there's actually no activity. We did receive some donations last month after our last meeting. Thank you to those who donated. We use a Cheddar Up system, and let me just put this in the link. There was a delay in how the funds are transferred from the collection to our bank. So they were not reflected in the September balance. However, I think we have about $200 or so that we had collected previously. Again, every meeting that you'll hear me speak, it's always we welcome contributions of any amount or type.
All right. Half hour, 45 minutes.
Yep, I will be.
No. I'm so sorry. That was towards my son. Go ahead.
Oh, it's quite all right. Yeah. No, I'm going to wrap it up in like 2 minutes. However, just the fact that there is not any financial activity does not mean that there was no planning activity going on. I know the fundraising committee will talk in a minute or so, but we have also been working with Mr. Robinson and the attendance committee, and so we have some ideas cooking. So stay tuned for that. But for the time being, as far as our official report, we have no activity in September. So that is the treasurer's report. Happy to answer any questions, any suggestions, and in the interest of getting the meeting off as fast as possible, I will stop talking.
If there are no questions, we will be accepting the treasurer's report for September.
Fantastic. And I believe the link I just posted to Cheddar Up for any contributions is in the chat. So again, do appreciate any contributions. Of course, they will all be going to the Lincoln PTA community, which is parent and teachers and students and the community as well. So thank you again on behalf of the PTA.
All right, thank you. Next slide. Secretary report, any updates?
Not too many updates. I put the sign-in sheet in the chat. I'll put it again right there. So if people could fill that in, that would be helpful to update our contacts database. And as usual, if you have any questions, you can email our general account and we will try to direct your question to the person it needs to go to or answer it if we know the answer.
Thank you. Can you also go and post the our email account, please?
Oh, yep.
Thank you. Next slide. The committee report, do we have the fundraising committee on? Nope, not at the moment. All right, we're gonna go in.
Don't believe so, but we are looking at some fundraising ideas with the fundraising committee, including, yes, your favorite, World's Finest Chocolate is back as well. So I know I'm trying to lose as much weight as I can, but the importance of raising money for the parents and for the students is maybe a little bit more important than my waistline. I see there's a question from the audience. I don't have the chat in front of me, but
Yes.
I did.
Please, person who has their hand up, please go right ahead and answer your question.
Hi, good night. My name is Nikisha. I was asking in regards to the fundraising committee. I had filled out the email in regards to being a part of it last month, and no one reached out to me. Are they still looking for people, or is it closed as of now?
No, every committee is always looking for people. Can you please message me your email address? You can send it privately or just email the Abraham Lincoln website, and I will get that information over to the committee as well as to Chris Sandor.
Yep.
Okay.
It is never too late to volunteer to help. Even if you are the parent of a senior who's looking to graduate, we will still help take your assistance. Not looking at you, Miss Scott, because you're already our PTA president, but
and
yes.
the alumni.
And alumni too, of course. Yes.
Help with ideas as well as donations.
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We're all for suggestions, not just contributions, but suggestions, fundraising ideas, that sort of thing. So yes, please. And I'm
Okay. Will do, because I was a PTA president for my son's school, both time for his junior high school and his middle school. So I have a couple of ideas that I want to pitch.
So we know who might be filling in when the election comes in May. Thank you. I'm putting a star next to your name on that one.
Miss Scott, I'm proud of you. You just made me proud. You just made me proud.
Outstanding.
Oh, yes. Long story on how Miss Brown got me in. All righty. Thank you. But don't forget to go and send me your email address, okay?
Yes, will do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next slide. School details. Go up for 1 second. Go back, I'm sorry. The only school details that I can think of are actually going to be on the next couple of slides, which is that the grades are going in tomorrow and the report cards will be next week. And not yet, but I do have a question about the parent teachers conference, but I'm going to hold tight on that one. Next slide. All right, informational support. We're constantly saying, you know, let your students try to go and deal with their problems. They're slowly becoming adults and they're going to learn how to go in and deal with their own battles. But here is the information. If you want to go and start reaching out, if you have, here are the various counselors. You have the 9th grade counselor, transition counselors, 10th, 11th, 12th. And you also have a separate counselor for students with IEPs. Above that, you have the assistant principals, which I keep calling them vice principals, but these are the assistant principals for each section within the school. And then, of course, you have the parent coordinator, and you have Mr. O'Connor, who deals with safety and security of the building, who does a phenomenal job, might I say. All right, next slide. This right here, we're actually coming to a closure with the school calendar for October. Again, you have the report card for distribution. Then we have details about our beloved football teams, that they will be having some games. We have Halloween in the next 2 weeks, which is not a holiday, so there will be school on the 31st. And next slide. Here's what's going on for November.
This is National Candy Day.
I have no idea.
A fundraising plug, by the way, just so you know.
Yes. So now I'm going to ask for Mr. Brill or Mr. Brill, not Miss Muhammad, and Mr. Robinson for November. The PTA conference, that's still going to be virtual, is that correct?
I would have to follow up with Mr. Robinson on that.
Okay, do we lose him for the evening?
I'll text him right now.
Okay, no, don't worry about it. If he's done, don't have him come back on, it's fine. But I would like some details on that. I know last month they said yes, that it's going to be virtual, and I just want to confirm that.
Okay.
All righty, the
I'll
blood
follow up
drive.
with tomorrow.
Thank you. The blood drive, that's for any student that's 16 and above that gets parent permission. Go back to November. The blood drive on the 16th of November.
Yes.
Okay. And where do they get the documentation for the parents to sign off on?
I will also have to follow up with Mr. Robinson. I still don't know. I don't have that information at this moment.
Okay. And National Candy Day, Decade Day, what involves that? And Great America Smokeouts?
So these are the events not necessarily at Lincoln. So Candy Day is just a national day in the United States, not necessarily something that's at Lincoln.
Okay.
I know last year on election day, they still had to report virtually. Do they just have that day off this year?
On the DOE website, it says no student attendance.
Okay, I just couldn't tell from the picture there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, actually.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, it says end of second marking on December 2nd, but I thought don't we have the second marking is already ending on December 2nd? Isn't that a little early? How many marking periods are there? I'm confused here. It just seems a little early in the year. Isn't it early to be doing the end of second marking period?
Well, there's technically 4 marking periods altogether. There's the first one, second one, third one, and then we have the 4 marking period that calculates all their grades.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Okay. I don't know why I thought there was only, I didn't realize there were 4.
There's like 2 terms, and each term has 4 report card periods, with the 4th one being the final, as she stated, that will accumulate the other 3.
Oh, so there are 4 marking periods per term and there are 2 terms per year. Okay.
Yes.
Now I understand. Okay.
And there is a question, is the SAT exam for 11th graders, is the school paying for it?
That would have been a great question for Miss Kelly. I will also have to follow up with you on the SAT exam. I know 11th graders and seniors are taking it, and some sophomores.
This is Mrs. Brown. In the past, it's always been during the school day, the SAT for 11th and 12th graders. That's why they give it during the school day. So then they don't need SAT waivers.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. All right, moving on to the next slide. There's no more questions. New business, moving on. So, last week, we brought in a new Title I committee. If I can please have both and I want to congratulate both of them, Miss Felicia and Miss Judith. Thank you so much for stepping up and dabbling into a portion of the PTA, which definitely helps the funding of understanding the funding for the school. And a good portion of this is the Title I. Do you have anything to discuss with the PTA?
Is Ms. Felicia here? Or it's just me?
I believe it is just you. I don't think she was able to make it this evening.
Okay. We don't have anything yet to discuss. We will be, announcing things for November, hopefully, but not yet at this meeting. We're still working things out as to what we're doing for the year, so.
No, not a problem. Again, they just got elected Thursday evening, and they had their first brief meeting yesterday morning. So they still need some time to go and gather all that information. But I just wanted to make sure that you were introduced at our PTA meeting. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be serving, and I look forward to a very successful year. God willing.
Excellent. Thank you. Next slide. And this concludes our evening PTA meeting. Like I said, I am very sorry for having this last a little longer than usual. I can still have our Q&A session. The one thing I just want to mention though, usually we do have our meetings every 3rd Thursday, but next month is the parent teachers meeting, and I didn't want it to go inside and have to make a decision on which ones you guys were going to be able to attend. So we decided to have our meeting on a Wednesday, the day before the parent teachers conference. So that's why there's a change. So November 16th is a Wednesday next month. The time will still be 6 p.m. I apologize that we did have to make that little change, but if you look at our dates, there's maybe 1 or 2 more in the spring where we had to do the same thing and adjust a different date because it was either a holiday or it just conflicted with the school event. And Ms. Meadows, I will look into that. You're right. I did see all the SATs on Saturday, so we'll need to get more details on that. So now we have at least 20 minutes for a Q&A. Otherwise, everyone have a great evening and we'll see you next month. Thank you so much for your time. I'm gonna stop recording.